What's up, everyone? I can't believe that it is now 2025. Can we believe it? Happy New Year, everyone. Welcome back to another video. Today's video is basically going to be the TBR for the month of January. I am also going to be uploading soon a best of 2024 video. I'll probably do the top 24 of 2024 or like the top series of 2024. I'm not really sure how I'm going to divvy it up yet, but I will be getting that video out to you guys soon, so you guys can definitely see if there's any books that really spoke to me this past year that might interest you guys. And I will also be filming the December reading wrap up. It's just been a busy couple of weeks, so I haven't really had a chance to put those videos as a priority yet, which is why there's some random videos that have been showing up in January. But that being said, I thought at least for today, we could kick it off with the classic, timeless TBR for the month of 2025's January. So for those of you that are new, welcome to the channel. My name is Jaya, and I basically put out book-related content every Wednesday and Sunday. The filming schedule may change a little bit this year. I haven't quite decided yet, but as of right now, it has been Wednesday and Sunday, and the plan is to keep it that way. I put out anything basically related to books, and we're trying to create a bookish little community here. So if that sounds like it's your vibe, you're definitely in the right place. Consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell so you don't miss out on anything. For those of you that are returning, thank you so much for being back. It is so special to have you here with me to be able to talk all things books. This community, I think, is just one of the most wonderful communities also that I've ever had the pleasure of working with, because people are just so conversational and inspiring and kind and open-minded and open-hearted, and I just love that. This is also my favorite time of the year, so I have more pep and energy than I usually do in the summertime, so it's been even more cozy to be able to just sit down, read a book, and share all of these like thoughts and feelings about these books with everyone. So once again, thank you for being here. Without further ado, let's jump into the video. So this month, being January, I'm really focusing on ice hockey. Some of these books are romance, some of these books are not, some of them are series continuations, some of them are new series that I'm jumping into. But basically, we are focusing on that top shelf that is right there. We are hitting all the hockey romances. I also have a couple of memoirs that are on the TBR as well that I'm hoping to get to. And I also have a book with a couple of the book clubs that I'm doing, which are not necessarily in the hockey romance genre. But starting us off strong with hockey romance, the current book that I have been reading is Mile High by Liz Tomford. I'm about 25% through this book right now. It is basically about a flight attendant who is assigned to the national hockey team from, I want to say, Chicago is home base for them. And she is basically part of the flight attendant crew that's on staff for the whole season. And we also have our main character, who is actually a teddy bear on the inside, but kind of comes off as a complete and total, part of my language, jackass in the original introduction of him in the book. He's basically seen as someone who wants to sleep around all the time and is just a complete, and total horrible human being. But as the book progresses, you kind of get tidbits that he actually has a heart and he's a good person and he has some trauma in his past that leads him to where he is today. It is a forbidden romance vibe as well, because she is not allowed to fraternize with any of the players on the team, and he is actively seeking her out. So that is the vibes of this book. I also love the fact that our main female character is not your typical main female lead. Like, she's described as being beautiful in the body that she's in, but she doesn't hit the standard definitions of beauty in society. It also talks about how it does make a difference, like who your friends are and who your community is and how people talk to you in your family and your friend groups in terms of boosting your own confidence. So I have been enjoying that perspective as well and kind of getting a feel for her trauma as well. But overall, this has been a great read and I'm very much looking forward to finishing this. But that is the first book on the list. The rest of the Windy City books are on my list to be read, but they're just not being read this month because they're not ice hockey themed books. So that's the first one. The next one I have on here is Pucked. This is by Helena Hunting. I ended up picking up this book at Barnes & Noble's because I loved the painted edges and I just think they're so cute. So I actually have no idea what this book is about. Let's find out together. She thought it was just one night, but hockey's biggest player wants more in this clever and sexy rom-com. So I have zero interest in legendary hockey player Alex Waters or his pretty beat-up face and six-pack abs. Having a famous pro athlete for a stepbrother means I'm aware that a lot of these guys are notorious F-boys. The only hockey games I attend are under duress. That is until Alex starts talking books to me. Then he becomes more than just a hot body with a face to match, and soon I discover just how good Alex is with the hockey stick in his pants. But I consider our one night of orgasmic magic just that, one night. Except Alex starts to call and text and email and send extravagant and quirky gifts. Suddenly he's too difficult to ignore and nearly impossible not to like. The problem, Alex is a total player, and me, I don't want to be part of the game. So I'm not really sure how I'm going to feel about this, just because it does sound like there is some spice, but I'm hoping that the spice isn't the primary aspect of the book. I do hope there's like other aspects to this book. I do like the idea of their connection and banter over the books, which is why I picked this up. So I'm excited to see where this book takes us, and I definitely judge this one by the cover. So we'll see if my judgment was right or not. So that is the next in the hockey series. Then I've heard wonderful things about Elle Kennedy. I have also heard that a lot of her books do have a lot of spice in them, but I've heard that like she's actually a really good author, and like her characters are more than just two-dimensional characters that have actual backgrounds and storylines, and that the romance is actually really cute between all the different characters. So I was like, okay, we'll try the Off-Campus series. So the first one is The Deal. So this one is basically Hannah Wells needs to figure out like how to step out of her comfort zone because she's new to college and she wants to like know how to talk to men, and she ends up tutoring the main hockey player on the college team. And so this one sounds like, you know, that nerdy athlete romance vibe. We'll see how this one goes, but that is The Deal. So that's the first book in the series. I'm not going to actually talk about what these books are because eventually I will be doing a series review on these whenever I finished it. So I will give more details at that point. The second book in this is called The Mistake. The Mistake, I believe, is following college junior John Logan, who is one of the hockey team's players. And then he ends up liking a freshman back in the day and basically screwed it up, but had a thing for her, and it's kind of sounding like a second chance romance. So we'll see how this one goes. So that was The Mistake. Then we have The Score, which is the third one in this lovely series, and this one is about Allie Hayes is in crisis mood. She has no clue what she's going to do after college, and she has a broken heart because her long-term relationship just ended. And Dean is our hockey guy in this one, and it sounds like he's interested in her, and she just wants to be friends because she's focusing on other things. So I am very curious to see how he gets out of the friend zone. So that is book numero 3. Then Quattro, we have The Goal by Elle Kennedy, and I think this is my favorite cover, if I'm being honest. This one is about a senior in college, Sabrina James, and she is excited about going to law school and then getting into a firm, and she just doesn't have time for romance. And then the main team player on this is John Tucker. Ooh, that reminds me of John Tucker Must Die. I have a feeling I'll read this and then watch that movie, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, so we'll see where this one goes, and he's in it for the long haul, it sounds like, with this girl. So we'll see where that goes. And then last but not least in this series, we have The Legacy, and I believe this is actually following all 4 of the girls and their respective partners. So this is like years after, like real life after graduation. It talks about like their relationships and where they are, proposals, like where they end up after the Off-Campus series has ended. So like future. And then from my understanding, the new series that she's writing, like the Graham series, those are based on the children of the characters from the Off-Campus series. So if I like this, I'll probably hit those up as well. But I believe the sport that's discussed in those books is a summer set of sports. So I will probably read those closer to the summertime. So far, those are the books that I have. Next up, I have my book of the month pick, which was also the book that was selected by my book club, the Overbooked Club on Facebook. It was started by a wonderful woman named Shane and supported by another wonderful woman named Lisa. Unfortunately, or fortunately, due to wonderful things happening in their lives, they were unable to run the book club further. So myself and a wonderful woman named Ashley have since helped take over that. If you guys are looking for a book club to join, we basically meet up on Zoom once a month to discuss a book of selection. And I usually put the polls out around like 2 weeks to 3 weeks before the start of the next month so that everyone can pick the book that they want to read. And you have a solid 2 to 3 weeks to get the book before the new month rolls in. But this month for January, we decided that we wanted to go for a memoir, something a little bit different and a little bit more hard-hitting and heavy, but also something that's going to be an interesting read and maybe inspirational or motivational as we start this new year. So this one is called Dinner for Vampires, and it's actually the memoir written by Bethany Joy Lenz. And she talks about how while she was on a cult television show, because One Tree Hill was like popular everywhere, her family and herself were also dealing with actual cult life and like the craziness that comes with that and all of the brainwashing and everything else. And she kind of goes into details about what happened to her money and everything else. So I am very excited to read this book and kind of see where it takes us. So that was the book club choice of the Overbooked Book Club, which we do over on Facebook. The other book club that I am a part of is currently reading books this year that have already been pre-selected. So this book club is called the P&G Book Club. It's run by a wonderful woman named Lisa Marie Landreth. And basically she puts out polls for the next set of books months in advance before the new year. So by the time 2025 rolls around, you already have all 12 of the titles that we will be reading, as well as the reading schedule. So for this January, the book that we're reading is going to be The Winter Garden by Kristen Hanna. Now, I've actually never read a Kristen Hanna book. I started Four Winds, but I never finished it. I started reading that book like when it was like peak May, June, summer season, and I just like I couldn't get into it. Like even thinking about it is making me yawn. But I've heard that she's a phenomenal historical fiction writer and that I need to give it more of a chance because I think I just didn't get past like that first 15 to 20% where I felt like the book was fluff. But from what I understand, the main character grows and develops a lot and you really connect with all the characters in her book. So I'm very much excited to see how Winter Garden feels and whether it kind of gets me into Kristen Hanna's writing. I do really want to read Firefly Lane. I really, really want to read The Women. I really want to read The Great Alone. So there's a lot of other books, The Nightingale. There's a lot of books that she's written and time periods that she's written within where I feel like the historical romance will be or historical fiction, I should say, would be fun to read. So I am curious to see where Winter Garden will take us. So that is the pick for the P&G Book Club for January. And all of the books for P&G this year, I will be reading on primarily my Nook. I just feel like it's easier to do it that way. So that is my current plan of action. Also, I will say I do love the Nook, but my biggest frustration with it is the battery dies so fast. I think it's absolutely insane how quickly the battery dies on these devices, and it honestly makes me mad. But it is what it is. So yeah, we will be reading on that soon. So next up, this is a book that's actually went viral on TikTok when it first came out, and everyone and their mother, I feel like, was talking about this book, and that is Icebreaker by Hannah Grace. And I have Wildfire and Daydream, which are the second and third books in this series, and I have never read the first one. And it's a Maple Hill series. I've heard wonderful things about it. I've heard that the romance is really cute, but it's basically, this first one is about a figure skater, a professional figure skater, and the romance that she has with an NHL player. And from my understanding, her partner either injures himself or is unable to perform with her, so he kind of offers to step in and help her be successful, which I think is really cute, and I'm kind of curious to see how that romance plays out. So I'm very excited to see what happens between Nate and Anastasia, so we shall see. Then I have another author that I've seen pop up all over the place, and she also has written a bunch of hockey romance. And I just love her covers. Her covers are so beautiful. But basically, that would be Becca Mack. So I have decided I'm going to read the Play With Me series by Becca Mack. So the first one is Consider Me. I am going into this book completely blind. I know nothing about these books. I just know that it's romance. It's about professional hockey players and main leads in this small town where they are. And I'm really excited to see where it takes me. So I have all 4 books in the series thus far. So I have Consider Me, then I have Play With Me, then I have Fall With Me, and then I have Unravel Me. And I want to go into these books so blind that I'm not even going to read the back of them. So I have no idea what they're about, but I do know they're hockey romance. And when I finish the series, I will definitely film a series review for you guys. So that is the Becca Mack series. The last 2 books that are on my TBR right now are books that I'm so excited to read, but I'm also so terrified of reading. And the reason I say that is because these books, like the way this author particularly writes, he's one of my favorite authors. And we read the first book in this series that this author wrote for my book club last year. And it broke my heart. It broke my heart. It pulled actual tears out of my eyeballs. Like I was bawling and sobbing with this book. They dealt with such a heavy topic, and the concept of like mob mentality and like towns and like small town vibes, and like the idea of golden children and how they can also get into trouble, and like when you should voice what you need to say, and like how what happens to you doesn't just impact you but those around you. Like it was just such a well-written book. And for those of you who know, the book that I'm talking about is Beartown by Frederick Bachman. And I have put it upon myself to finish the rest of the series. I do know that one of my favorite characters dies in the 3rd book, and that's why I think I've been really struggling to get myself to commit to reading the rest of them, because it's so hard to imagine this character like being gone. But the next one in the series is called Us Against You. So we kind of left off at a point in the first book where, you know, the main head coach of the hockey team in Beartown has kind of decided he's going to go in a different direction. He goes to the town next door. And then the old hockey coach who was originally going to retire then gets hired to stay on in Beartown. The manager's daughter and the star player on the hockey team are the main source of the disruption that kind of occurs within the first book. So we're kind of picking up from there. So the town is still like kind of recovering. There's a lot of like lines drawn in the sand. And you have some players that have stayed behind in Beartown and the old team and kind of supporting like the idea of quote unquote the right thing to do. And then you have the other side that have kind of gone to the second team, kind of seeking glory and fame and money and just moving on with their professional careers and really being afraid of letting go of their hockey potential and their hockey family and their hockey dreams. And this book is so beautiful. I'm already sure. Like this series, I think is just going to be beautiful because it is basically about a hockey town. And it talks about so many different aspects of human relationships and human behavior and human culture under the premise of hockey. So I think this one is also going to be fun to read. So I will be reading Us Against You. And then the final book in the series is called The Winners. Now in this book, I do know we have a loss. Every single book, it sounds like there's something that happens that's like really tragic and takes a lot of emotion to recover from. But I am very excited to see where the series takes me. And this book is thick. This book is a giant, like for him, this is a big book. This is 680 pages, 670 pages. So it is a chunky book, but I am very, very excited to dig my teeth into this and kind of see where it takes me. So yeah, that's what I have so far. Last but not least, if I have time, I have honorable mentions for the TBR that may or may not make it on there. And that is 2 books that are actually in that stack right now that I didn't bring up here because they're not going to go on the TBR cart unless I have time for them. But one of them is Viola Davis's autobiography, and then the other one is Jeanette McCurdy's autobiography. I do feel like I do want to read one of those just to get a, motivation for like different people's different strokes, different life experiences and how they handled it and the challenges that they faced. I just feel like it can be very motivational to read those kind of stories. So I do hope to read at least one other nonfiction this month, but I'm thinking I'm leaning towards the Viola Davis book versus the Jeanette McCurdy book. That may change, but as of right now, that is the current plan. So altogether, we have a total of, for sure, 16 books on the TBR, and we have a potential 17, potential 18, depending on how many books I can actually sit down and read. But I can't wait to jump into 2025 and get my feet wet with all of the reading. And I'm so excited to share everything I read with you guys and just take you on this crazy reading journey with me. For those of you who are returning and made it till the end of this video, thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate you. Like, it means the world to me that you guys come back and watch these videos regularly. Sometimes I know they are quite long, and I appreciate the fact that you take that time to sit down and comment and just be a part of the community and the family with me, because I really do think books are special because they can bring people together. It's storytelling at the end of the day, right? So it's just so lovely, and that means a lot. For those of you that are new, if this is up your alley and you did enjoy it, please do consider hitting that subscribe button and that notification bell. I am truly in this just to create that bookish community, and I sincerely hope that no one is ever shy to leave a comment or question mark or recommend books for me to read. Like, I always love taking recommendations too. So fingers crossed, we will come across something that has a little bit for everybody. But until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Happy 2025 and happy reading.